Hello and welcome. It's the Green Squire going over some traits, units, and abilities that are unique to the UEF faction. Starting off, the Tech 2 gunship, not the Tech 3 gunship, but the Tech 2 gunship, the Stinger, has a transport clamp on it that can be useful in a variety of situations. For instance, maybe you want to give your engineer a little bit more support as you tell him to go grab some forward mass extractors. You can see the engineer is on board right here, just like a regular transport. Maybe you want to take some flak with you and try to drop it off quickly in case of an enemy air attack. So you kind of just bring it along with you, and then if you see enemy interceptors coming in or something, you can quick try and drop it off, and that will provide you some very quick and dirty air support like so. Or better yet, you can even give your gunship some more damage per second by attaching a light assault bot to it. In this case, it's the Mech Marine for UEF. You just add him to the transport like so. We'll go over there and run on. And now, the Mech Marine or the light assault bot is the only bot in the game that can fire off of transports, or in this case, gunships. So if I tell this guy to attack these, you can see that, if I can get this showing, the Mech Marine is actually firing his little weapon from below the gunship like so. And this will add about 21 damage per second, which is nothing to scoff at. Next up is the Flying Engineer UEF has access to, also called the Rover. It can be built in Tech 2 by building the Kennel Engineering Station. You can build lots of these. And now you can see those finish, and now I have, if I double click these, 3 engineering stations, and I have 3 little rovers here. And while they can't build anything, they can assist things, and they have a very, very fast movement speed. So if I'm, for instance, upgrading this radar, and I want to assist it, I'm going to tell one regular engineer to go do it, and then I'm going to tell my rover flying drones to do it. And just look at how fast they are compared to this regular guy. Not even close. So these guys can be very useful in a pinch. Like maybe you're building a wall section, these guys will just hover and not get stuck on any wall parts. That's very useful. Additionally, these rovers or flying engineers can be built from the commander itself. If you go over and click the commander and go down to this enhancement menu, in addition to these tech upgrades and weapon upgrades, one of the options for the back is these 2 drones. So let's go ahead and build one. And as you see, these guys automatically come and help, which is kind of nice, but also can hurt your economy if you're stalling, so be careful about that auto help. And let's go ahead and add the second one just for good measure. Here's the first one, here's the original 3 coming to help out. And as you see, they do look different, and there are actually differences. So these guys, the ones built from the Kennel Engineering Stations, can only help things. As you see, this build menu thing is grayed out. However, the commander's drones are very, very cool. They do have access to this construction menu, and they can build things. So a dirty strategy, especially on larger maps, is to get a couple of these drone guys, and due to their quick movement speed, you can actually race them across the map and do something that the opponent probably won't see coming. And another good thing about them being flying units is that regular tanks and regular point defense like this won't be able to shoot these guys down. So if I have them go just right over the top, they won't be shot down. And look at that, there they go, right over the top. The point defense can do absolutely nothing about it. The medium tanks or the light tanks can do nothing about it either. And there they go, off to do something very sneaky. Next up, continuing the topic of engineers, the UEF has access to this field engineer. And while he can't make any buildings, he can make all these weapons, he can reclaim and capture and all that good stuff. He also has radar jamming, which is pretty cool. But one of the coolest features is he actually has a riot gun on him, and it's not too shabby either. So if I spawn in maybe just one light assault bot, not even light assault bot, just one regular light tank, and I put him around here, and kind of watch the fight happen. And look at that, health is hardly going down and he's pumping out a decent amount of damage. So he can take out one light tank, and he can actually take out 2 light tanks as well. So kind of a cool strategy if you have a few of these guys running around, all making point defense, and they're not a terrible fighting force either, so just another cool thing to know about. Next up is another upgrade pertaining to the commander, and it is actually these Billy Nukes, or Advanced Tactical Nuclear Missiles. So if that sounds cool, it is pretty cool. Unfortunately, we'll have to say goodbye to the CD1 and CD2 Rovers, so because the upgrade is also on the back, so unfortunately, yes, we're gonna have to say goodbye to you guys. Hopefully you guys already got, your job done with factories and stuff on the front line, but let's go ahead and let this regular attack missile upgrade, and this is just a regular attack missile, just the first upgrade, and let's go ahead and start the tactical nuke upgrading, and there again are our rover engineers from the kennel, and let's let this finish. And now we have the Billy Nuke installed on this commander with a gigantic backpack on his back, and they function the same, but we're gonna have to let him build one. Just left click that, or you can right click this build missile to auto generate it, although beware, takes up a lot of power evidently when you do so. If I turn this on, it's taking up 4,000 power building one Billy Nuke, so maybe I'll tell these guys to pause and just kind of let the commander go about it on his own, and we're still stalling power, so just be aware of that when you do try to build one of these. And now that that is finished, as you can see down here, let's go ahead and launch it. I just spawned in a kind of just mix of stuff like a factory, Tech 2 point defense, some Tech 3 units, and let's just go ahead and see how good this thing is. So here we go, launch, as you can see, pretty wide radius. And there it goes. Couple fun facts, this thing is still regarded as a tactical missile, so the enemy shouldn't get a strategic nuke launched notification. Oh, and that's a very, very dirty play from the loyalists that I totally forgot about, and that will backfire hardcore. And we can see the devastation of that thing on my own base. But I was going to talk about the loyalists in the Cybran video, but holy cow, that demonstration did it better than I could have done. So loyalists do indeed return tactical missiles to their sender, as my unfortunate commander found out here. And guys, let's go ahead and redo that, because it was kind of an unfair showing of how powerful this Billy Nuke was, because it also exploded my commander, who himself is a nuke. So it made it look a little bit more powerful than it actually may be. So let's just go ahead and launch this thing again onto this group of units with no loyalists this time, and let's see how it fares now. So there it goes. Coming in for a landing. Got some Tech 1 point defense, Tech 2 point defense, Tech 3 units, Tech 3 anti-air, a factory, and look at that, all of that was taken out. So again, I believe this does around half the damage as a regular nuke. Still looks enormous though, and it is still very, very devastating. Next up has to do with UEF doctrine as a whole. They are actually the only faction to not have any direct fire experimentals. And direct fire is simply something that fires in a straight line or has a low fire arc trajectory. Think of just a tank as a direct fire unit as opposed to a light artillery unit, which kind of shoots in a big arc and it can shoot over walls and something like that. So the UEF does not have a direct fire experimental. Think of the Spider-Lord for Cybran, or the Galactic Colossus for Aeon, or even the Chicken for Seraphim. Instead, they have an artillery land experimental, and this thing can be very deadly if used correctly. You'll want to keep it just on the edges of your front line and kind of just do some long-range bombardment and run away with your fat boy if another direct fire experimental does get too close to it, because if the fat boy goes toe to toe with basically any other experimental, it's gonna lose. It's pretty squishy, but if used correctly and kept protected and kept at a range where nothing else can hit it, it is very, very annoying to deal with. And kind of on the same principles as the fat boy, other than this experimental aircraft carrier, which is a very, very powerful naval unit, one of the best in the game at anti-naval warfare as well as anti-air warfare, their other two experimentals are also one extremely long-range artillery and one no-vax satellite system. And I can build one of these and show you what it does. But essentially what this means is UEF players are probably the player who is most likely to end up turtling in any given game, just because most of these game ender weapons or experimentals are standoffish kind of units. So it's a very good thing then that the UEF is the only faction with a Tech 3 point defense. So if we look at here, this is the regular Tech 1, all factions have this. This here is just a Tech 2 point defense, again, all factions have this. But the UEF has access to the Ravager, and its name does not disappoint. It absolutely ravages units, and let's just go ahead and select this point 2 defense. You can see its range right here, and if I hover over this guy, you can see the range is absolutely humongous. It has an extremely fast fire rate, it shreds units. The only thing to be aware about with this is it fires very fast and it has to reload. It takes a few seconds to reload. So you might not want to fully replace these Tech 2 units, but rather just supplement the Tech 2 things. So the Tech 2 can take out lots of spam if they send spam, and the Tech 3 can take out the more higher tech things, and even experimentals if you have enough of them. And while we're on the topic of turtling, there's no better time than now to mention the shield boat that the UEF has. This thing, it's kind of hard to tell right here, but if you can see, there is indeed a shield over this boat, hence the name, and it can change the tide of naval warfare. And if you have a few of these mixed in with your destroyers and your cruisers, your navy becomes exponentially more dangerous. So don't forget to include these shield boats in your navy if you are playing as UEF. But yeah guys, as this experimental satellite bombs the enemy base from afar, I think this will wrap it up. If I did forget to mention anything, don't hesitate to leave comments down below to help out some other newbies. And as always, stay tuned for more to come.